Hey, good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution episode. Oh man, I forgot. 437, I think. I tried to adjust the camera. My hair was off screen the last days. My camera was tilted and my hair was growing, but I got a haircut yesterday. So the hair is shorter. So now it's fully on camera. So didn't really have a big topic to discuss, and I slept in this morning. I've just my sleep schedule since Tuesday, since beer and wings night past my bedtime has thrown me off. So um, some wacky sleep the last few nights. What's up, Brad? Good morning. It is Friday. Got my Cubs shirt on because it's Club 400 Christmas party day. I think I've outgrown. Yesterday I talked about the beer belly polos. I think I've outgrown my Chicago Cubs Christmas sweater, and I've worn it 4 years, 5 years. So I was actually shopping for one a few weeks ago. Didn't really see anything that caught my eye. So I think I might just roll into the Christmas party tonight with just a regular Cub shirt or just a regular sweater. What's up? Good morning, Mark. So that's tonight. Patrick Wisdom is our guest. What's up, Herman? Good morning. Patrick Wisdom is going to be there. Ray Burris is going to be there, a former Cub back in the 70s. And he actually had a long career and most recently with the Philadelphia Phillies as a coach. George, what's up? Not being self employed that has the sleep schedule messed up. That might be part of it. Could be part of it. Um, so that's tonight. I love what's up, Zach. Good morning. I love the Club 400 Christmas parties because it's a more intimate affair. It's a small party and it's a lot of regulars. It's mostly regulars, and we've all become friends through Club 400, going on Cubs trips, hanging out at Wrigley to spring training. So it's become a real fun time. What's up, Mike? And good morning, Diego. Um, so looking forward to that. My buddy lives like literally 3 blocks down the street. It was like oh, one of those moments where it's like the world's collide like Club 400. The very first time I went was I think right around the time. I think it was January of 2018. Talk about the project today. The project is approaching its 4-year anniversary. So I started it in December of 2017. I was actually just trying to look to see when my Twitter join date was. I know it was just before Christmas. So I was the wheels by this point, by December 10th, 4 years ago, the wheels were starting to go in motion about starting something. I wanted to write a blog about Cubs cards. I had started and failed many Cubs blogs over the past 10, 15 years. In fact, sometimes when you type in Cubs baseball cards, one of my first blogs from like 2010 or 2011 comes up, and I only wrote like 3 posts. I don't know how, because it's not, not SEO at all over time. It's just kind of hung out there in cyberspace. And I think it's Earl Cunningham. It might be Earl Cunningham. When you type in Earl Cunningham, it might show up on the first or second page. So started and failed and just never followed through. I shouldn't say failed. I just didn't follow through on the blogs because I didn't have there was no like direction. There was no purpose. Like it was just, I like Cubs cards. I'm going to write about Cubs cards. But then that's where it ended. So I didn't put much work into it, and just kind of started, stopped numerous times. And the 1 Million Cubs project and change Cubs cards, and I'm having to hold off on trades just because getting started with the eBay business and just putting all of my focus into that right now. So way behind on some trades. So anyway, I don't know where I was going on. So the 4-year anniversary, Club 400, my first time at Club 400 was short after I started the project. In January 2018, Bill Buckner was the guest that night. Rest in peace, Billy Buck. So Bill Buckner, and I think Ray Burris was there that night, and that was like our first introduction to Ray Burris, who has now appeared. Ben, he's not really a Cubs guest anymore. He's like just he's one of us, one of us. He just shows up and he loves hanging out with us. So Ray Burris is like just kind of one of the Club 400 people, um, one of the regulars. So Bill Buckner, Ray Burris were at that first one. When I first got the email, like here's the direct, here's what you do. Got the address, and it was in Lake in the Hills, Illinois, which is it's a pretty northwest suburb. I don't even know if you would consider Lake in the Hills as because it's basically like kind of consumed by Crystal Lake and then Huntley to the west. And so um, actually, two of my really good friends live in Lake in the Hills, and it's like, what are the odds? I mean, what are the odds that two of my friends from like different worlds both ended up in Lake in the Hills, and then now Club 400 comes along? It's like Lake in the Hills, center of the universe. So I looked it up on a map, and I'm like, holy, it's like literally 2 or 3 blocks, but there's a body of water between the two homes. Um, so I can't just walk over there. So my buddy Scott's been my DD, and it's a quick drive over. And he finally went for the first time. He got to meet Stu last summer. We went to a Cubs Cardinals game. We were getting on one of the charter vans from the train station to Wrigley, and all of a sudden I see Stu walking down the ramp, and so I yelled out. So we jumped in a van together. And so Scott got to talk to Stu, like, hey, we're neighbors. So Scott finally went, and he went to the last event, which was they kind of all blur together. I can't remember who the main player was at the summer event. Um, Gosh, who was it? Who? Totally blanking out. But anyway, so we went to that, had a good time. He's skipping out the Christmas party tonight, but I'll be crashing it at his house. So looking forward to the club Christmas party tonight. If feel okay, if I'm not too sluggish tomorrow, I'll be hitting up the Rockford Card Show, Rock Church on Harrison Avenue. Um, I will not be setting up because I'll be at the Christmas party and don't want to wake up early to set up at the card show. So my plan is because I take like back like and they're not literally back roads, but they're 2-lane highways back from Crystal Lake to Madison, but I can take interstate. If I take the interstate, I like literally go like what is it, Mike? Like a quarter mile from the exit. It's super close from the interstate to the show. So if I take the interstate, boom, it's right along my way. So I will miss you guys too, and no Madison show this month. So the next time I'll see a lot of these guys is the January Rockford show. And then the next Madison show, January 29th. So hopefully I'm feeling okay, not too tired, and just wanting to get home. And I'll make a stop into the card show tomorrow. Mark dropping Chico Walker, the 87 tops. Chico Walker is one of my favorite. It's got to be. It may have been my first 87 tops card that I saw, or Cubs card that I saw, because that wood grain border as a kid, loved it. So Chico Walker holds a special place in my Cubs collection. Diego says, congrats on the 4 years. Thank you. Crystal Lake, Jason's stomping ground. That's right. Friday the 13th was one of my favorite movies. Well, all of them were my favorite movie growing up, which is weird as a kid. We would like me and my friends would like act out because one of my friends, kind of a side story, one of my friends, we have a campground, basically a campground. It's a mile outside of a mile from my childhood home. Um, and it's if anybody's familiar with like American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, It was of those parks. It's called the 40 and 8. La Chateau Park was the name of it, 40 and 8. So when I was in like third, fourth grade, a new family had moved in as caretakers. You go into the park and there's, you check in. You have to be a member to join this campground park. Um, so they had a son my age, and we actually had my same summer and school year. My cousin lived with my mom and dad and I, and they had a son. They were in the same class, so they became good friends. Me and Luke became best friends, and so I spent like every day of the summer and we would act out like Friday the 13th, like in the woods, because we would play in the woods. There was an old like chicken coop, like in the woods, like just beyond the main entrance, and we would like it was our fort. There was like this big it was what it was a coal mine lake. And so then there was this big like hill that we would pretend we were like what was that movie with Sylvester Stallone, where not Alive, that was the plane crash, but there was another one where Cliffhanger. So we would pretend we were Cliffhanger on the side of this mountain to us, but small hill, I guess. Anyway, I digress. So 1 million Cubs project, 4 years, 4 years. And what's funny is half the people, how many Cubs cards do you have? And right now the count is a little over 731,000. And it's like half the people say, oh my God, that's a crazy amount of Cubs cards. And then the other half say, wow, I thought you would have got to a million a long time ago. And it's like, do you know how much 1 million cards is? And actually, one of the guys at the post office always remarks, and he's been saying this for 2 years. He's like, "You haven't? I can't believe you get packages every day. I can't believe." So one day, I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't understand the scope of 1 million. So I told it. So the package he went and picked up, and he's like, man, I've been transferred from one post office and back to this one, and you were doing this before I came back." And I'm like, "Yep." And so the box he brought back to me was a medium flat rate box. So um, I said, "Well, here's the thing. Like most of the boxes that come in are small boxes. There's only a couple hundred cards in them. This box has about 2,500. For 3,000, but on average, about 2,500 cards. Now, take that into a million, and that's how many of these boxes it takes to get to a million. And I'm not getting these boxes, every day or even every week. Like it's kind of a rarity that a big flat rate box of Cubs comes in. So I still don't think he understood the gravity of the number. Um, 730. I honestly am surprised. I have like ADHD when it comes to collecting, and I've talked about it here. I've blogged about it where it's like squirrel. I'm gonna go chase the squirrel. I just have this, but for some reason I've continued my focus, and I've kind of like last winter I was bored because again, winter in Wisconsin plus COVID, quarantine, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, stay in home, shelter in place. I had to find other hobbies because I was getting tired of baseball cards. Now I'm doing it full time. Um, so I started collecting wrestling magazines again, which is kind of back turned to the hobby like Zach came back from like the junk era Zach, in the early 90s. They came back because hey, we're at home, let's get out the old baseball cards. That's what I was. I was already in the baseball card hobby, and I needed to find an alternative hobby. And so I like, man, I'm gonna buy an old wrestling magazine. I got a subscription to Pro Wrestling Illustrated and bought a bunch of back issues. And I've actually last night, and this is now wrestling is now my hobby again, just to take a break because it's getting to the point where like that's if I'm laying on the couch watching Netflix or whatever, tweeting about baseball cards, reading about baseball cards, listing cards on eBay. So it's like there needs to be a break at some point where yes, I need to go like 100%, but at the same time need to take a break once in a while. So last night I watched some AEW from this Wednesday. Grabbed an old PWI from like 1987. Was reading about Hulk and Andre and the NWA, and so kind of taking me back. So Herman says I do the same thing, but always come back to the main PC. Yeah, and that's there's I have found like packs of non-sports, and it's like I really want to collect like for the duck cards. And it's like I'm gonna go look for Howard, and it's like stop. We need to focus on here's a pack, and I think I'm gonna do a series of uh like nostalgia breaks. And I did the 91 Upper Deck football. I did something else. And these were just in a random box I found the other day. These are Don Russ. These were in like fun bags. I think that's actually what I know. It's a funny name, but I think that's literally what they were called Don Russ fun bags. I think that was the name. If it wasn't, it should be because that's a fun name. I think 83 is when they released these. But it's Don Russ, and it's kind of like a mystery. They had like there was a van set, like conversion vans. There was a fire truck set. There was dirt bikes, and then golf. And so these are golf cards because you can actually like see, probably not on camera, but you can see. I can. And these were golf, and there were like five. There were like five. Five. What am I trying to say? I had like five of these packs, and they were all golf. And then I think I sold a few, opened a couple, and then I left one just for fun. And then this is 89 star minor league cards. So I'll open these up. I'll just do quick videos on Sergeant Pepper. Yeah, Sergeant Pepper. And I actually have like a huge box of Sergeant Pepper cards. I pulled the Steve Martins because I love Steve Martin. Probably my all-time favorite comedian. He's in that set. Peter Frampton was in that set. So yeah, Magnificent Morocco podcast. I have not listened to that one. I'll have to tune in. I always forget. And Mark, you talk about, is it the 605 podcast and like the Studcast? I've listened to it. I have like got into them, but I need to because the more I listen to like Jim Cornette and some of Bruce Pritchard's 80s stuff, I want to learn more about the 80s territories because that predated my wrestling fandom. And I didn't really study the history or get into the territories because I was always WWF. But what's kind of listening to Tony Schiavone, listening to Jim Cornette into the current indie scene, and specifically AEW, which I don't even know if you can consider that's really not an indie anymore, being on national TV, on national cable TV. But anyway, I've been watching. In fact, on my screen right now, I've been watching on Peacock. I've been going through and watching. It's kind of background, but the run of some Mid-South shows, and I'm going back. I'm in 1984, so I'm just letting them roll. The Mid-South weekly program from 94. And I also love Memphis wrestling. I love USWA and the Memphis territory. Lance Russell was an awesome announcer. So I've been watching a lot of Memphis as well. Steve Martin is a wild and crazy guy. Arn, I didn't really get, I love all the Conrad Thompson podcasts, but the Arn podcast hasn't really pulled me. Like I listened to a bunch of them, but I haven't listened to that. I haven't listened to the Kurt Angle podcast. And who's the other one? Jeff Jarrett, which I listened to the first few Jeff Jarrett pods, which were great. And I just haven't, I think the reason why is because I didn't subscribe to them. So they're not like popping up. The ones are there, Cornette and the other Conrad podcast. Dan says he's thinking of moving my Burleys, which are currently in Top Savers and Vault boxes, to Z Folios. Pros and cons for both. I've seen like the Z Folios at Target, and I know we had a discussion on one of the roundtables a while back about those, and I just don't know what I would put in folio. If I had like a specific, if I had like, and I have some PC guys like Javi Baez and some of the minor league guys, but I don't have them like sorted or in any type of order yet. So I really don't have. It's like I'm not going to put money into it and let them sit like a bunch of the 3-ring binders that I hoarded from Goodwill for years, and now they're just sitting in the basement. Um, so the only really thing that I want to touch on, just kind of, I was thinking this morning, some of the quirks that I have, and specifically some of the non-Cubs cards. So it's like, how do I define a Cubs card in my Cubs collection? And I say my Cubs collection because people can say, they can poo-poo on, well, that's not a true Cubs card, but guess what? And it's my rules. So shut up. So what defines a Cubs card in my eyes is a gray area. Like it's not black and white, and it's not all or nothing either. So case in point, Team USA cards. And I'm talking more of like the recently released like Panini, Team USA, Stars and Stripes, and those. So, like I would buy up or trade for Chris Bryant, Addison Russell, Kyle Schwarber, like those guys who were current Cubs. And they're also in Russell came on from Oakland. But for the most part, they were developed and played for the Cubs. So, that was like definitely 100% Cubs card. I'll take them all. But then there's like a gray area with Nomar Garciaparra and Joe Carter. So these are the gray areas where, is it a Cubs card? Was a Cubs draft pick, first round draft pick, and played in the minor leagues, and then was traded. Nationalize and say, well, Team USA, he the Cubs right after he played for Team USA, he was a Cubs prospect, and then in the big leagues for the Cubs. Nomar's kind of one of those where it's like, yeah, he had a stint. He had like a short stint with the Cubs, and that's where it's like a gray area, where it's kind of like, it's not all or nothing for me. It's like, okay, I'll put a couple Nomar Garciaparra Team USA cards in my Cubs collection, but I would consider that a Red Sox card. But since I do it for some of the other players, yeah, I'll put one or two in there. So that's kind of the gray area for me. Mark brings up Ty Griffin. Now Ty Griffin is 100% Cubs card. That 88 tops traded USA, completely 100%. That is a Cubs card because the following year he was a first round draft pick out of Georgia Tech in 88 and 89. First Cubs card, number one draft. It's almost like contiguous. 88 tops traded, the pre-rookie card, then he's got the 89 tops, number one draft pick rookie card. And then he played the minor leagues for a couple years. And then I don't think he was traded. I think he was released and then signed by, I think, the Reds, because he has a Chattanooga Lookouts from like 92 or 93. So it's kind of a gray area. And I'll hoard Ty Griffin 80 for me. Just because that 89 tops, Ty Griffin is kind of what drew me in to Cubs cards way back when, 30 plus years ago. So it gets into the gray areas with the Joe Carters and the Nomar Garciaparras, where it's like I'm not going to hoard them, but I'll have a couple in the Joe Carter a little more so. It's kind of like scales. It's kind of levels. Palmeiro is another one. Like Palmeiro, definitely a Cubs card, because not only was he drafted with the Cubs, he came up in the minor leagues and then played a few seasons before he was traded to the Rangers. So Palmeiro is definite when it's a Team USA. Raffy Palmeiro, he's a definite No Doubter, Team USA Cubs card. Ty Griffin, same. But then Nomar is definitely the like it's kind of stretching it. So that's why it's like, okay, if somebody wants to call me out and I have 5 Nomar Team USA cards in my collection and they want to call me out and say you don't have a million Cubs cards because these Nomars don't count. You have 999,995. Well, I'll just open up a complete set and pull out the 30 Cubs cards. Okay, now I'm at 1,025,000. So that's kind of one other quirk I have is like, do you collect them all? Do you collect just one? It's like, well, duplicates count. So one of the weirdest, and now in hindsight, it's like, that's dumb. Why did I do that? Tops Living, which I don't even like Tops Living. Like I think Tops Living is just kind of like who by Frank Schwindel, Tops Living this week. He's the next guest at Club 400 next month. So 2 months in a row, we get Club 400 current Cubs. So that's where was I going with this? The Tops Living. So Javi's, who I have a PC of player PC, Javi, and he was in Tops Living. And this is when I was buying like a lot of the online tops, like before it was the cool thing to do, before everything like spiked in prices. I was buying all the like online exclusives and all that in like would have been 2018. So I bought 9. I bought 9 Javi Baez Tops Living cards at whatever. I think I bought them from one of the Tops resellers. So I got them for like $5, $6, and that's like $50 on these stupid Tops Living Javi Baez cards. And it's like somebody asked why 9, and it's like, well, it fills a binder page. And now it's like, that's stupid. Why did I do that? So just one of the quirks, like, is one enough? Oh, I need 9. Why 9 to fill a binder page? Well, that's dumb. So I don't do that anymore. But that's when I was just kind of just like, hey, let's buy everything. And I think at that time I didn't realize the scope of a million, because I don't spend $50 on 9 Tops Living Javi Baez cards. That's dumb. So I admit that. Learn from your failures. Brad says anyone who argues with your 1 million collection needs a life. But there's people out there on social media who, they're the poop heads. They poo poo on everything. And it's like, well, I had one guy who, and this was a couple years ago. He's like, well, it doesn't count because you have duplicates. It's like, well, it's impossible to collect a million non-duplicates because there's only 250,000 non duplicates out there in from 1887, 1886. So it's literally impossible. And then it's like, well, I can create my own custom cards. Well, those don't count. So it's like, okay. There's just negative people out there that are just going to poo poo on everybody. Do you collect Cubs minor league teams? That's absolutely, and that's one of my favorite things. And I love finding the kind of the harder to find. When you get back into the 70s, they're really tough to find. And really, there's a Wichita, and Dan, actually, from one of your videos, you were collecting the White Sox rookies, in minor leagues. I discovered through that video of yours that Steve Swisher has a Wichita Arrows Cubs minor league card, and I didn't know that set existed. So I think that was 1970. I think Swisher is in 74, but the Wichita Arrows had a 70, or no, maybe Swisher was in 73, and then I have a 72 Wichita Arrows set, which features Tony La Russa, who appeared in one game as a Cub, as a Chicago Cub, as a pinch runner, scored a run. So it's some of those, hard to find. There's some like 50. There's and I met the guy who's like a collector. I actually found this particular series on his blog, and then I met him at the National this year. But there was a line out of I think it was a bread company, but they had minor league cards in like the early 50s. And there were, I think, two Cubs. They Visalia Cubs. And so I asked him, and he goes, "Funny you mentioned that." And then that's how I learned, because I saw he had a bunch of those particular minor league cards. And when I asked, "Do you have this player?" And he goes, "Funny you mentioned that." And then that's how I learned. I'm like, okay, that's where I learned about these particular cards, was his blog post. Um, Brad says there are poo-poo heads. We know at least one. Yeah, we do. Herman will need 9 for his grandchildren. Diego says, "Did you call me Brad? I saw poo-poo head." So yeah, those are just some of the quirks of the 1 Million Cubs project. I didn't really have a topic to touch on today, so figured, hey, I don't spend. Um, so that's what's going on. I did get my roughly 100 listings on. I did, I think, about 50 basketball cards. And then I did a bunch of, well, more than 50, because I did a bunch of some jersey relics that I picked up in that bulk from a few weeks ago. So put some of those up. One sold right away. I was pretty happy with that. Um, and then I think I'm just going through some like soccer color parallels. Put some soccer, and they're not moving at all. And I soccer like I've set up, people are like asking for soccer cards, and I'm putting these soccer cards up at or under comps, and they're just not moving. I don't know if is soccer not in season. I know buying is down drastically in December, but it's just weird that I'm not even getting any look, not I'm not getting any like watcher. I think I had one watcher, so I threw him an offer. But nothing on those soccer, and I've listed a bunch lately, so kind of weird. Dan said Visalia. Wow, haven't heard that town name in a long time. Yeah, and I think they most recently had a minor league team called the Oaks, the Visalia Oaks, which I don't believe they are there anymore. But way back in the 50s, they were the Visalia Cubs. So that's what I had for today. Tonight, Club 400 Christmas party. So I will not be live tomorrow. Mike says eBay has been slow for him. Yeah, it's been really slow, and I expected it. It's just now that I'm doing it, I knew it going in, like, and it was kind of like the plan. Hey, this is perfect timing because sales will be down. It will give me more time to devote to listing. And now here I am, and it's like, how come there's not more sales? And it's like that mindset thing. So tonight, Club 400 Christmas party. I will not be live tomorrow morning. Hoping to hit up the Rockford Card Show on my way back, and then I'll be live Sunday morning to recap the Club 400 Christmas party and the show. If I make it by, Mike says they'll have a handful of brand new vendors. Very cool. So yeah, Sunday morning, and Sundays are always kind of TBA on time. Usually between 8 and 9 at some point. If you follow me on Twitter, 1 million, I'll post the link right before I go live. So that's all I had for today. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll chat again on Sunday morning.